Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I'm your host, Tammy, also known as Unacceptable Canadian Girl. And with me are my beautiful co-hosts, Suze, also known as Suze Creamy, and Ashley, also known as Fun Acceptable Views. Ladies, how are we doing tonight?
Hello.
Fantastic.
Very
Excellent.
good.
Do you guys have your tinfoil hats on real tight tonight?
Super,
As
super
always.
tight. Always
Screwed
tight.
right on.
Like it's glued to my head.
Perfect. This is what I like to hear because tonight we are diving into MK Ultra.
I am
Dun, dun,
very
dun.
excited about this. And
So
terrified, actually.
And I was just going to say, I'm a little bit terrified as well, but excited at the same time.
So MK Ultra, we've discussed this numerous times, is always my go-to to try to wake people up. And the reason it is my go-to is
I understand why.
It actually happened. And the American government has admitted to it, the CIA has admitted to it, and the Canadian government has admitted to it. So
what you're saying is we don't actually need to wear our tinfoil hats for this one.
Actually, you're right.
Well, look at that.
Aw,
Too bad
but
I
I like
glued
my
it on.
tinfoil
Fuck.
hat.
I still like to keep mine on nice and tight. You never know what we're going to end up talking about.
Mine's glued on, so it's not going anywhere.
Perfect. So what do you guys know about MK Ultra before we kind of dive into the origins?
Basically, what I know is that this started back in like the 50s ish, I think. And it was basically the CIA that decided to, torture people and run some tests and drug them up and try to control them basically with like making them think like they're going crazy for the most part. That's pretty much what I know.
Yep. Ash?
I knew that M and K are parts of the alphabet.
Oh, shit. I'm dying. I also don't see Ash anymore. What the fuck happened?
No.
This is what happens when you speak about the CIA.
No shit. All right. So we're having some technical difficulties. We're going to wait and see if we can get Ash back on here. But in the meantime,
don't mention
maybe
CIA.
we just kind of keep going. See if the CIA shuts the rest of us down.
I will message Ash in the meantime and figure out what's going on.
All right. So MK Ultra actually was a byproduct of what a lot of people know to be Operation Paperclip. Oh, it looks like we've got Ashley back.
Yeah, I see her coming back. I don't know if she's connected.
There we go.
Hello.
Ashley?
Looks like I got canceled by the government.
We were just
saying that.
This is what happens when you talk about the CIA. So finish your point, okay. Ash. You know that M and K is part of the alphabet.
That's still true. Look what I'm getting canceled for. I mean, geez, can't we agree on that?
Or you say the letters M and K are in the alphabet.
Sesame Street is after me. So, basically, I knew that it was something bad enough that Joe Rogan was talking about it with Dave Smith on his podcast, but I had no background at all whatsoever for what he was saying. But I knew that there was some mind control involved, and that's like almost all I knew. So it's only been in the last week that I've been looking into it. So I don't think that really counts for what I know, because that's kind of new research this week. I really knew nothing. So it's
okay. Well,
it's been a real real eye opener this week. That's for sure.
Basically, Ash and I feel like you did last week, Tammy, with the blue dress.
Yeah, the Bill Clinton dress.
That's a fair statement. Well, up until, I don't know, a few years back anyways, I just knew that MK Ultra was a really good strain of weed. So it, it wasn't until I actually started looking into some of these things a little bit more that I learned about it. So
My husband said it sounded like a rave. He's like, "Is that a rave?"
kind of does.
I'm like,
So Ash, just when you dropped off, I was going to kind of start getting into it, but MK Ultra was a byproduct of Operation Paperclip, and I'm going to kind of, I don't want to get too much into that tonight, but I'll kind of explain it very briefly what that was. But back in the 1940s, Nazi scientists working in Auschwitz were actually conducting experiments on human subjects using barbiturates, which are depressant drugs. They were also using things like morphine derivatives, hallucinogens. You kind of get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So they were actually using these on Jews and Soviet prisoners of war to actually try to develop a truth serum. Fast forward to 1945, and that's when the U.S. started Operation Paperclip. And that's where the U.S. took over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and techs from Nazi Germany and actually employed them with the U.S. government.
Wow.
That's a lot
Great.
A lot of Nazis.
Yeah.
You know what? Can I interject something? When I hear Operation Paperclip, I think about Bill Gates, because all I can think of is this stupid little paperclip in like the MS Office.
Dude, I forgot about
You guys are
that.
probably... And I'm like, I don't know. Did that have anything to do with it?
Everything.
Tammy will find out later. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I know.
So basically, the fact that the U.S. took these 1,600 Nazi scientists and engineers and techs from Nazi Germany has caused very strong speculation that MK Ultra was actually a continuation of the experiments that were started in Nazi Germany back in the 40s. MK Ultra, though, didn't start off as MK Ultra. So MK Ultra actually started off as Project Bluebird. And it started in 1950.
Oh, hold on. Project what bird?
Bluebird.
Blue. There's the color blue again. Why do you keep throwing the color blue at me?
I mean, I didn't really notice it until you pointed it out, but you're not wrong. There's a lot of blue. The blue room in the Plaza Hotel, Bluebird, the blue dress.
Okay, and if Bluebird I hear one more fucked up shit with the color blue, I'm changing my dog's name. Like, that's it.
Change his name to Whitey.
Whitey. You know he's black, right?
Well, you know, he's
being diverse.
And I thought that was interesting when I heard that, because Bluebird was to make people sing, you know, like a bluebird. And so they were conducting experiments on them to, you know,
sing,
make them talk, make them sing. Please continue.
Carry on.
All right. So in 1950, the CIA started completing interrogation projects. Oh my goodness, I can't talk tonight. On human subjects. And that's where they initially started the project, Project Bluebird. So on August 20th, 1951, they changed Project Bluebird to Project Artichoke. And the objective of Artichoke was to see if they could get a human subject to involuntarily perform an attempted assassination, aka create a Manchurian candidate. Do you guys know what a Manchurian candidate is?
I do now.
She's been using the dictionary like I was last episode. All of the research this week. So Manchurian candidate is basically, for somebody who doesn't know, it's an assassin. And the idea was to create an assassin that, you know, if you said a word or a certain phrase or whatever they decided to do, that this person would then go and complete an assassination attempt. So that's kind of
Just like
where
in
they were.
Zoolander.
Actually, yes. So this is kind of where they were going with this. Other experiments that they did included administering morphine, mescaline, and LSD to unsuspecting CIA agents to see if they could induce amnesia, as well as employing viruses such as dengue fever as incapacitating agents. So,
Come on.
dengue fever is actually a mosquito-borne
dengue.
virus. Typically, it is not fatal, but it can be very debilitating. So they were actually doing this on their own people.
Wow.
Which is wild.
And Bill Gates just released a whole bunch of mosquitoes in Florida and
uh-huh.
Coincidence? I don't think so.
Yeah. So on April 13th, 1953, Project Artichoke was changed to MK Ultra. And MK Ultra aimed to use mind control techniques that were similar to techniques that were used on prisoners during the Korean War. So the CIA was looking to develop similar techniques to use on their own prisoners, different foreign leaders. One of the leaders that they were actually going after was Justin Trudeau's father, Fidel Castro. In most cases, the experiments were actually conducted without anyone's knowledge. So the subjects didn't know that they were actually being experimented on. The experiments were conducted at different institutions across North America. So things like, or places like medical institutions, universities, all sorts of different places. And they were funded via academic grants from the CIA front companies. Yeah, prisons as well. They were doing them in.
Wow.
And within MK Ultra, there was actually over 150 sub-projects that were funded by the CIA. Which, like, if you think about that, is wild.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's
so
just unbelievable.
Some of the things that they used in MK Ultra were brainwashing, psychological torture, high doses of psychoactive drugs. Mainly, they were using things like LSD, electroshock, and the electroshock was particularly bad because they were doing it around 40 times, like a regular shock that a human being could take. Using like hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse. And it was basically all to weaken people and force confessions.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty wild what they did to these people. Unfortunately, a lot of the subjects were unsuspecting mental patients, students, prisoners, drug addicts, prostitutes, CIA employees, military personnel, doctors, government officials, and just general members of the public. So basically anyone. So you never knew if you were going to be a victim of MK Ultra.
Yeah.
I have a quote here from a Whitey Bulger. He was a former organized crime boss.
Yep.
And he wrote of his experience when he was a test subject in the MK Ultra back in 1957. He was at Atlanta prison where he was serving his time. And he wrote total loss of appetite, hallucinating. The room would change shape, hours of paranoia and feeling violent. We experienced horrible periods of living nightmares and even blood coming out of the walls. Guys turning to skeletons in front of me. I saw a camera change into the head of a dog. I felt like I was going insane. So basically he was just on drugs like LSD, but had no freaking idea he was on drugs.
Right. There were some of them that did know. They were given like nicer cells or lesser sentences in exchange for like having these drugs administered on them in the prisons. But a lot of them didn't know. I think Whitey Bulger did know, but I could be wrong on that. I did my homework.
Yeah, I certainly did. I'm actually impressed.
Well,
you guys are going to be MK Ultra experts soon.
Sure are.
Can I ask, do you know what the MK stands for?
I was gonna ask the same thing. Like, where's the MK
I
from
don't
besides being in
know.
the alphabet?
Do you think maybe it's
Somebody
like mind control, but the K is like the
That's
German version or something?
That's what
that's
I
what I
thought,
thought.
but
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody Google what does the MK and MK Ultra stand for? I'm curious now.
Hey,
I'm on
Jamie.
it.
Do we have a Jamie yet?
I know. Where the fuck is Jamie? He's always fucking late.
Yeah. This podcast sucks compared to Joe Rogan's.
I mean, I think we're all right.
Um,
Anyways, so the intent of MK Ultra was basically to determine if they could wipe a subject's mind clear and reprogram them as a robot agent. One of the most well-known subprojects of MK Ultra was actually called Operation Midnight Climax. This one consisted of the CIA setting up several brothels in San Francisco safe houses.
I
So
have
they
the answer.
would. What was that?
It stands for mind control. The control with a K part is spelled with a K due to the project originating in Germany.
Wow.
You were right,
Amazing.
Ashley. You were right.
Good,
Carry on.
good inferencing.
Yes, way to go. Go team.
Go team.
So when they did Operation Midnight Climax, they actually set up one-way mirrors in hotel rooms and
You
motels,
dirty perverts.
right?
Sick fucks.
And they filmed the Johns being dosed with LSD, and then of course the prostitutes would do their thing, and the interactions would be filmed and used for study purposes.
Sure.
Study in quotes because we don't know.
Sure.
In other sub projects that they did, CIA
Can I add
agents.
something to that?
Yeah.
They actually did discover that they were able to get the most information from the Johns if after they had their happy ending, if they then asked them personal questions, they tended to get the most out of them at that point when they're all kind of like dozy and content and sleepy.
I
Okay,
feel
but
like I'm
hold
not
on.
surprised by this information.
Yeah.
Hold on. To my understanding, you can get almost any information from a man after he's had a happy ending. Drugs or no drugs.
100%.
Sorry, Dad. That's
Sorry,
gonna be my
Ashley's dad.
T-shirt slogan.
Tammy and I are going to wear a shirt that says, sorry, Ashley's dead.
Sorry, Ashley's dad.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting that T-shirt. I've got a guy, and I'm gonna reach out to him after this episode, and I'm gonna be like, dude, we need 2 T-shirts that say "Sorry, Ashley's dad."
And then one for my dad that just has him putting earmuffs on.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Anyways, so in other sub projects that they did, CIA agents and military personnel were dosed with LSD without their knowledge. They sometimes did it at Christmas parties and all sorts of, company events. They did not get consent. And they were actually told when they were dosed that if they didn't reveal their secrets, their trip would be extended, which ended up resulting in a lot of
wow.
long-term debilitation and a ton of deaths.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So MK Ultra was actually made public around 1975. There's a little speculation there because some stuff says 1974, some stuff says 1975, but you get the idea. Richard Helms, who was the director of the CIA at that time, had already ordered that all the MK Ultra files be destroyed in 1973. So by the time it became public, there was basically no files left. Further investigations relied on sworn testimony, direct participants, and a few surviving documents. And then a Freedom of Information Act was requested in 1977, which ended up revealing approximately 20,000 cached documents from MK Ultra. And in 2001, a small amount of surviving documents were declassified. So if you go on the CIA reading room, you can take a look at some of them there, but there's not a whole lot of information there. A lot of it's blacked out. It's it's just
Of course
not.
it is.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Like
what a
it's
Exact-
not what you would typically get.
Acted. Yeah.
So the scope of MK Ultra, as you can tell, was very large. The US Supreme Court concluded that research was conducted at 80 different institutions in the US and Canada by 185 private researchers, including 44 colleges and universities, hospitals, prisons, pharmaceutical companies were also stated to have participated.
Good
you
old
don't
Big
say.
Pharma. Yeah.
Yeah. So I specifically wanted to reference that in this because it's so important with something like this that people see that pharma has their hands in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The government has their hands in everything. The universities. So these are trusted universities. And I mean, we'll get to it a little bit later, but two of the most famous universities involved, or three actually, were Stanford, Princeton, and Harvard.
Wow.
And here in Canada, McGill University.
Oh wow.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So Canada was part of MK Ultra, and the Canadian portion of it was called Sub Project 68. So basically, it came to Canada when they recruited a doctor named Donald Ewan Cameron. And Dr. Cameron was the creator of a concept that they called psychic driving. So, psychic driving was basically when they forced a subject to listen to hundreds of thousands of repetitive messages on a continuous loop for hours, and they would actually paralyze them with drugs to keep them in place for the so-called treatment.
Lovely.
Yeah, Dr. Cameron
delightful.
actually claimed that psychic driving was made to cure patients of schizophrenia. And this is, yeah. And this is where it gets
Right.
really kind of crazy. So, Dr. Cameron was actually known worldwide. He was the chairman of the World Psychiatric Association, and he was the president of the American Psychiatric Association and the Canadian Psychiatric Association. And if that's not enough,
Wow.
he was also a member of the Nuremberg Medical Tribunal from 1946 to 1947.
Come on.
Yep.
The fuck?
What?
So I'm going to read that again.
Why am I not surprised?
Dr.
my
Cameron was also a member of the Nuremberg Medical Tribunal from 1946 to 1947.
So, buddy who was doing like illegal, well, I guess they weren't technically illegal.
It was
but-
illegal. It was illegal.
Right. They weren't allowed to be doing them. And so they were doing all of this horrible torture. He was on the Nuremberg committee.
Right.
Wow.
So once again, just want to stop to point out how this is all connected. This is a club and we are not a part of it.
Wow.
Nope. Well, we can
So-
be if we want to drink gold juice.
No, not the gold juice.
Just saying.
So, Dr. Cameron worked at the Allan Memorial Institute in Montreal from 1957 to 1964. At that time, he was paid $69,000 a year, which would be the equivalent of $579,480 US in 2023. Over those few years, he made over $4 million today's dollar.
Wow.
He used LSD, paralytics, electroconvulsive therapy, and again, it was often 40 times the normal power. He put subjects in drug-induced comas for several weeks. There's actually one known case where a subject was placed in a coma for 3 months. The really scary part about this is most often he experimented on patients that came in for less serious things. So, and I'm not minimalizing anything here, but it wasn't often the schizophrenics or anything like that, or people with major mental trauma. Oftentimes it was somebody that was suffering with something like postpartum depression or an anxiety disorder.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Coming in for help, and he's like, "Oh, I'll help you."
Now we
just to
just give them
recap,
made.
Yeah, now we
yeah.
just offer them. That's it. Yeah, I'll help you.
So
No problem.
just to recap, the same man that was torturing unsuspecting patients was also on the Nuremberg Medical Tribunal. But trust the experts, right?
Trust those experts, everyone.
Follow the science, everybody.
The science.
Which leads you right back to the money. Just saying.
That's right. That's right. So in 1977, it was actually confirmed that the CIA and the Canadian government had been funding illegal MK Ultra experiments on unsuspecting patients for the purposes of mind control and brainwashing at the Allan Memorial Institute in Montreal, which is part of McGill University. And I want to very much highlight that the Canadian government helped fund these experiments.
Wow.
The Canadian government helped fund these experiments.
Again,
not
not shocking anymore.
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anymore.
today, there are approximately 55 or so families that are seeking a class action lawsuit against the Canadian government and the CIA for family members that were victims of MK Ultra at the Allan Memorial Institute. And in March 2017, the Justice Department and the Trudeau's government, attempted to silence several victims via non-disclosure payments, shocker, which have actually been accepted by some victims. That said, many victims have still decided to try to come forward. And there was actually, I believe it was back in December of 2023, some of the victims of MK Ultra were actually protesting in Montreal outside of the Allan Memorial Institute.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
to try to raise awareness.
Sorry.
So
when was that?
December 2023.
Oh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
very,
You know,
very,
like
very
3 months
recently.
ago?
Mhm. And so the latest in the lawsuits with this is the CIA since about I think it was about March 2022, has actually been trying to fight the people that want this class action lawsuit, saying that they can't be held accountable. And the reason that they're saying that is there was another law put in place some time ago. I can't remember what it was called. I'd have to look it up, but basically it would stop them from being charged, or it would give them immunity essentially. But they're arguing or counter arguing that no, this is not the case. You can still be charged. So this has been kind of going back and forth. It's gone to the Quebec Supreme Court. I don't know where it's at in this moment. I know they're still fighting it, but there's very limited updates. So it's hard to say where it's at. I just know that they are still seeking this class action lawsuit, and they are for sure going after the Canadian government, but it may mean that they need to actually sue the CIA in the US, which obviously would be much harder, but
That would be
I
difficult,
do
Oh,
think that
wow.
they're going to try to go ahead with it. So that's kind of the
Wow.
I don't know, the overview of MK Ultra. It's pretty wild. This is why I use it to wake people up, because it's real. It happened. Up until today's day, there's people fighting for what happened to their family members within this. And MK Ultra wasn't just in the US and Canada, and I haven't done a ton of research about it worldwide, but I do know that it was worldwide that they were conducting these experiments on people. The really scary part about MK Ultra is I personally don't believe it ever ended.
Well, that's
They've
what I was just
just
going to say.
continued to rename it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of
makes
course,
sense.
like they would just make it. I mean, we've seen what our governments have been doing, where they are able to keep things more classified than ever, than before. So I don't doubt that they would just say, "Oh no, this is way too important to allow the public to know about it. It's a matter of security." Like our government can do that for like the Emergencies Act, authorization. So as if they wouldn't do it for something as sketch bag as, you know, like torturing people
Sketch
and
bag.
trying to control them. So
Mhm.
yeah, I you know, when I heard that, oh, they shut it down in you know, the 70s, I'm like, nah, they didn't. There's no way
No,
they
Yeah,
did.
balls. They shut it
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
no, they definitely didn't.
Yeah, they gave you the illusion. Yeah, we shut it down, and then yeah, like you said, just rename it something else, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's what they do, and then they continue on their merry way, experimenting on citizens, and then they apologize for it. They don't even apologize for it
No,
30
they
years later. They're just like, "Oh, whoopsie, our bad," and they continue on, and they get away with it.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
So,
Now, I'm curious, Tammy. Like you say, you use this to like wake people up, and when you
mhm.
do use this this MK Ultra to with that goal of waking people up, tell me you have like 100% success rate in waking people up, because to me, I'm like, if this doesn't wake you up, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, there's no hope for
50%
you.
of the
This
time, I am successful all the time. No, I'm just kidding. That's from a
It is-
movie somewhere.
yeah, that's
Um,
Anchorman. What is it? Panther.
yeah, yeah,
Black.
yeah.
But like,
What was that
seriously though,
clone?
like if someone hears this and you got the evidence and it's like right there, it's like, fuck, look this up yourself. Like, this is legit happened. It's like, how do you not wake up after finding this out?
Yeah, so I will say I am really good at waking people up. MK Ultra definitely does the trick. The only one my wake up skills don't work on is my titanium Trudeau mother.
What?
She
Oh my
she doesn't
God.
want to seem to come around, but most of the time, yeah, it does work because it's a true story. And I find if you can also like I put in a lot of humor too, right? But um, you know, if you can make people see that they've done these things before, they kind of become open to the idea. I was talking to my massage therapist about it tonight,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? Like so people are willing to listen when they know that it's the truth. And you know, a very easy way to kind of do it, and I always say this is, you know, if you want to fact check me, go ahead, you can do your own research, but you're going to find that I'm right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is
So
something that I'm really embarrassed that I knew nothing about. Like it's this is important shit that we need to know what's happening within our governments. And this is why it's really important that um we push back on the centralization of power because let's just say that it's not always used appropriately.
Yeah.
mhm. It's scary what they can do and what they get away with. Nobody's been held accountable for this. And
Gosh, and I thought what was happening in the past few years was terrible for accountability, but this is really disturbing.
Yeah. It's
yep.
next level.
And there's actually more to MK Ultra, which is even more scary. But MK Ultra, because it was done at a lot of institutions, and you guys already talked about one of the individuals that was affected by it. But there's also others. So there's also the Unibomber. So Ted Kaczynski. And I'm sure everybody's heard about the Unibomber, but Ted
Mhm.
Kaczynski was a victim of MK Ultra, I believe, in the Harvard experiments from 1959 to about 1962. And you can actually look that up. It is declassified on the CIA reading room website, and it states that he was part of it. So the Unibomber, like, let
Hmm.
that sink in. And Henry
Okay, Elon.
Murray, and Henry Murray, who was a Harvard professor, he was actually secretly employed by the CIA.
This is
Oh,
what's
really?
terrifying. Like
Wow.
the things
Yeah.
we don't know about the people who have been made, who have been weaponized in our society by our own government. It really starts making you wonder. I mean, I'm sure we're going to go down a bit further in this to, you know, some of the other people who've been involved, but it's like um, this sh- this cannot happen. This cannot be happening.
But it
Uh,
is. and
So
they've infiltrated everything.
Yeah.
So the Unibomber, Ted, died by suicide in prison. Do we all think that he actually died by suicide?
Yeah. Do they have?
Probably not.
I bet you the cameras were turned off.
I haven't
Mm.
looked too much into the Unabomber in terms of his death and stuff like that. I was more just, kind of researching the involvement in MK Ultra, but he's not the only one. Charles Manson and the family also victims of MK Ultra, and it's really twisted in that one because we have been led to believe by the book Helter Skelter, which is very, very, very one-sided, and if you don't know that, you need to do some more research. Maybe read Chaos by Tom O'Neill. But Charles Manson and the family were victims of MK Ultra. They were dosed repeatedly on LSD. There's some really crazy stuff that happened with that. So this has had very far-reaching consequences. Very far-reaching. Think about the impact that Charles Manson and the family had on the world. Think about the impact that the Unabomber had on the world.
Yeah.
These have not been small incidents. These have been huge that have, shaken people to their core. And this was all stemmed from MK Ultra. And there's more out there. There's I didn't get too much into it because I figured just hashing out all of the MK Ultra stuff was going to be kind of long. So I didn't bother. But there's a lot more people that were affected by MK Ultra, the digger you dig, or the deeper you dig. And it's really scary.
Well, so, even there's one scientist who found out what they were doing to some of their test subjects, and he started expressing his concerns about it. And then he happened to be invited on a, let's say, air quote, retreat. We're not talking about Twitter here. Our programming is malfunctioning. Anyways, he got invited to this retreat and was dosed while he was there, and had like a really, really bad trip. They told him like after he started tripping out, they like a whole bunch of the scientists were dosed and then weren't told until after the fact. And he was like obviously very upset about it, but there's nothing he could do. He was stuck tripping for like 13 hours, I guess. And he had some pretty terrible like mental issues after the fact, and ended up basically so they say jumping from a window and committing suicide. But he wasn't even facing the right way to, like, if you were say like committing suicide, like he was facing like I think face up, and I mean sure maybe the body turned around, but let's just say there's like blunt trauma to the back of the head, and his son actually had the body like exhumed later on to have like another autopsy done because they thought something didn't seem right. His death was called in before the actual time of death.
Wow.
Very, very sketchy stuff was going on with that. So I think that the family is still trying to figure out what the heck happened there.
It says
I would just like to state that I am not suicidal.
Yes, I am not suicidal either.
Didn't we all state that already on an episode?
Well,
yeah, I feel like we need to say it again.
If something happens to us, please find out we did not commit suicide.
That'll be on the back of the "I'm sorry, Dad" our T-shirt.
I was trying to like see if I could look up some like victims or whatever. It says here a group of surviving victims won the wife. This is for when MK Ultra was in Canada. It says won the wife of a member of the Canadian Parliament. Do we know who that is? Because it doesn't actually say here.
Whoa!
It just says the wife of a member of the Canadian Parliament.
Wow.
Hmm.
No, I didn't know that.
Hmm. I wonder
That's
who that
wild.
is.
But see what I mean? Like it's so far reaching. There was literally nobody that was safe from this. They were doing it to their own people even.
I mean, so we were talking about the Picton Farms, the whatever, that frickin' friggy piggy friggy, the
Piggy
piggy
Palace
palace.
something.
Like, I mean, do we even know? Like, because they were getting people to perform like sort of like orgies. They were even trying to like dose the whole room with like aerosols to see what would happen if the
Mhm.
whole the whole room would, erupt in some sort of glorious orgy. And it's an interesting thing. Like, are there connections?
Well, I'm wondering about the connections or whether or not there is a connection with Robert Picton himself, whether or not he
Hmm.
may or may not have been a victim of MK Ultra. His birth year and everything, he very well could have been,
Hmm.
but I don't know, and I haven't been able to make that connection. But you're not the only one that kind of thought about that. I very much have been trying to kind of do some research behind the scenes to see if I could link up the two, and
Yeah,
honestly, I wouldn't be shocked.
I
I
wouldn't be
think
shocked.
that there's a lot of connection to serial killers during those times as well, because there's a lot of speculation that there was a spike in serial killers during that time. And part of the speculation is that, is there a chance that some of these serial killers were, maybe victims of MK Ultra, whether it was in prison or in a mental institution, or, who knows, right?
Hmm.
So
So I found a
definitely
list here
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
of 10 people, 10 like relatively known people, I guess, that were apparently victims. Um, I can go through it if you like. One is Ken
Yeah, go nuts.
Kesey, who's the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes. Yes, I knew about that one.
Hmm.
There's him. Then there is Whitey Bulger that I mentioned. He was a gangster guy. He was exposed in Atlanta. Then there is Robert Hunter, a lyricist and longtime collaborator with the Grateful Dead's Jerry Garcia. He was exposed to the same testing as Kessie. Then there's Harold Blauer, who was a professional tennis player.
Wow.
Uh, that was in 1952. That happened to him. And then there's James Stanley, which was he was in the military. Who else we got on this list? Wayne Ritchie. He was a deputy U.S. Marshal and a veteran of the Marine Corps. He was dosed at a holiday party in 57. Ruth Kelly was a singer and a waitress at a San Francisco bar. Jeez, I can't talk today either. Dr. Robert Hyde. That name sounds familiar. Who else we got?
Probably just from that 70s show, Hide.
Then there's the technical services staff agents. The CIA had multiple units working on MK Ultra related testing, including the Office of Security and the Technical Services staff. Wow. And then George H. White. The TSS agents were not the only CIA operatives to get carried away with the use of LSD, as George H. White, head of operations of Midnight Climax, and agent blah blah blah. You get the idea. Anyways, that's like the top 10 of like known people that were victims of
Hmm.
MK Ultra.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
Crazy shit.
Are we gonna
Um,
touch on the one of the kind of heads of the project who happened to be the person who would swoop in? So, like some of the people who were, for instance, there was this one, let's say a man who was a victim of the MK Ultra experiments. He went into whatever institution for migraines. He was in the military, I believe. He was in aviation, and they ended up uh, doing like these terrible experiments on him while he was supposed to be going in for just like treatments for his migraines.
Yep.
And he ended up being found kind of coming out of the bushes with like a whole bunch of scrapes on him, and a 3-year-old girl's body was found at a gravel pit just nearby, and he had no recollection of anything that he had done. And the sort of psychologist or psychiatrist who swooped in to take over and do the analysis on his mental health before the trial happened to be part of the MK Ultra project.
Of
And
course.
so, yeah. And so there's speculation that he actually did more mind control on the man, and I believe he had a psychotic break, and then started kind of spouting off nonsense before he could even. I might be talking about a different person now. I kind of crammed everything in this week, but the same psychologist, kind of was on a couple of trials and did like, and I'm doing air quotes here. He did his, sort of assessment on these people, and then gave them some treatments to help them with their mental issues. And well, you know, then they couldn't really talk about what they experienced as well.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna rat us out? Electroshock will fix that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty crazy how deep it runs, and it's pretty crazy how much they were able to infiltrate and control kind of the events that took place as a result of MK Ultra. So the part that really scares me, and I think should scare everybody. I mean, aside from the obvious things that are scary about this, is the fact that they were in institutions.
Mhm.
So not just medical institutions, these people that were involved in doing these experiments on people were experimenting on students in universities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
These are universities that are, in terms of today's day, they are prized universities that people go to. All these people want to go to Harvard and Stanford and la la la. And these places are, to be quite frank, after learning about all this, shitholes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Who wants to go to a place that allowed this to happen?
No kidding.
Right. I'll tell you
They
where my kids
knew
won't be
what
going.
was happening. And then it makes you wonder, as I'm kind of going through all this stuff, and I knew a lot about MK Ultra anyways, but obviously I was kind of doing a little bit of extra research for the episode and stuff, and I got thinking, it, it's funny if you think about how they infiltrated all of these institutions, whether it be prisons, medical schools, whatever, and then you take a look at COVID and how obedient these exact same institutions were with mandates and all of this other crap. It's really scary.
Mhm.
And then, take that one step further and follow the money, because if you follow the money, you're going to find the trash.
Yeah.
But places like Western University had some of the toughest vaccine mandates. Well, guess who funds Western University, or who's given funding to, rather? Bill
Ooh.
Gates.
Oh, there's a
Mhm.
shocker. Good old Billy.
And I think it was like back in episode 1, I had said to you guys, in terms of the unions, I wonder who sponsors some of these things. And I told you guys at that time I was going to look into something, because I'd heard a rumor that Luna was funding the talk that Anthony Fauci was coming to do in Hamilton, Ontario. And I was right. It was Luna. It was the
Mm.
laborers union was doing this. So now we look at COVID and we see, the unions, and Suze, you can speak to this a little bit, I think, but the unions were not standing up for their people. Well, fuck, I wonder why.
Yeah,
Yep.
zero standing up. Like, I even had my union say, just get vaccinated and then we'll grieve it. I'm sorry, what?
Wow.
I'm like, how does that work? I'm like, if I win, I still have the vaccine. Like,
That
what
does
exactly
not
am I
sound
winning?
like a win.
Right? I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. No, they didn't
So
stand with their members at all.
it's really terrifying when you kind of zoom out of one I don't want to say a small thing, because MK Ultra was not a small thing, but when you zoom out of, one incident, and the picture starts to get a little bit bigger and more things start to fit into that picture, and they start to kind of link up, and you can
Yeah.
start to kind of connect those dots, it really does start to become kind of scary to know that they have their hands in everything.
It
And
is. Yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, what's more scary about this is these aren't even the people that are running the show.
No,
Mhm.
exactly.
Right. They're just following orders.
That's right. And you can follow the money, and we've talked about this before, to companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and I always get this one wrong, State Street,
State Street. Yeah.
and it's far beyond them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And things like the fact checkers, Reuters fact checkers. I think his name is James C. Smith. Used to be the president or the CEO of Reuters, and then he's on the board of Pfizer.
Yep.
Shocking.
Just
Right?
unbelievable. Yeah.
So
And I just wanted to make sort of like a parallel between what we've been talking about with the entertainment industry, and you mentioning that the CIA has been, they've infiltrated the entertainment industry in Hollywood for, for a long time, and we were talking about how it seems like they have their handlers and whatnot, and I of course did actually go down the route in my head of, okay, so we're talking about the gold juice and what that means, and you kind of wonder if they are a part of the next form of MK Ultra in order to um you know mind control, what would you say, like exact mind control on the masses by they themselves being mind controlled as well, but they get their nice things out of it.
It would make sense.
Mhm.
Well, and MK Ultra is just one of many CIA operations too, right?
Right.
One of the other ones that's really crazy too is Operation Mockingbird, where they used the media to manipulate citizens. I mean,
Mhm.
shocker.
I like that.
Shocker.
Doesn't still happen today. No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, Operation Mockingbird is still going on as far as I'm concerned. It might be a different name now, but it's still happening. We've seen it with the media. They're just a bunch of puppets for, whoever's pulling the strings back there. But there's multiple projects that you can dive into that the CIA has done and admitted to, that involve all different forms of mind control and psyops. And another one that's really scary too is Project Montauk. So if you have, I assume you guys have seen Stranger Things.
A little bit of it, but not much.
So do you get like the general idea of it though?
Nope.
I see. Well, that's not helpful. Suze?
Why don't you go ahead and tell us, Tammy?
So
Go for it.
Stranger Things is basically it takes place in the 80s. Probably most listeners are going to know what I'm talking about anyways, but it's it's just
Just not
Ashley who
your
lives on
partner
her
in
island.
crime.
Yeah. Fuck you guys.
We love you.
So Stranger Things is about a bunch of kids, and one of the kids is experimented on by the government, and her name is 11, and they call her Elle for short. And she basically escapes, and the CIA or the government or whoever is after them, and blah blah blah. So it stretches out into, I think they're in season 4 now, or going into season 5. I don't know. Anyways, Stranger Things was actually based on the Montauk projects. So yeah, we won't really get into it today. I'll bring you guys down another rabbit hole at some point when I host again. But the Montauk project is really, really, really scary. And some of the things that they were doing, I think it was at Camp David, I'm pretty sure. I'm just checking here because I want to make sure I give the right information.
It's not Camp Blue Cabin or something like that?
No. And fuck, if we had Jamie here, this would be a lot quicker.
What the fuck, Jamie?
So,
whatever Joe Rogan is paying you, we will quarter it.
Not Camp David, sorry. Camp Hero, or the Montauk Air Force Station in Montauk, New York. And it was for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research, including time travel.
What?
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
You heard me correct. They were experimenting with telepathy and all sorts of different things. And if you don't believe that those experiments are real, then I would highly recommend you go to the CIA reading room and you pull the 39 pages that they've done on the gateway process. And the gateway process discusses how the CIA achieved astral projection, telepathy. It shows what human beings are capable of, and it's all there for anybody to read. And it is wild. So if you've ever wondered maybe why they want to control us, the gateway process is a really good place to start because it tells you what human beings are actually capable of if they knew.
Oh, Tammy, you sent me that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I never
That was
read
a
it.
long time ago in the podcast infancy.
Infancy.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
what is it about? And you're like, you have to read it. I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
what if I wanted the Coles notes? You're like, well, you have to read it.
Because I don't think that you can give Coles notes on the gateway process. And part of the reason is it's so, oh my gosh, it's so vast what they did. And there's so much to it. It's a really hard thing to just be like, oh, well, it was this thing this one time that they did, and like it consisted of this, and then be done. You can't. I read the documents 4 times the first night that I found them. Because I could, first of all, I couldn't even believe what I was reading and that it was actually true. But the gateway process is it basically proves that we can astral project. So, have an out of body experience on purpose. We can communicate with one another through telepathy. And there's ways to get to that. And the CIA has been doing it for some time now. And it all started with a place called the Monroe Institute. There was a person, Bob Monroe, who started, this, it's basically like a mindfulness institute where he studied and others studied mindfulness and, things like astral projection and stuff like that. And to my understanding, Bob Monroe, who actually created this institute, was laying in bed one night listening to basically certain frequencies. and sometimes they'll be called binaural beats and stuff like that. And basically, how it works is you might hear 100 hertz in one ear and 120 hertz in the other, but your brain hears the difference of the two. So your brain hears 20 hertz. And depending on the hertz that your brain hears, it can actually throw you into a different state of consciousness. And this is what happened to Bob Monroe. And of course, the CIA got a hold of it and they wanted to know more. So they started doing all of these wild experiments. And one of the experiments that they actually did, they had, I think it was 10, I'd have to look back, but I think it was 10 CIA agents, and they had them astral project and go to the other side of the world. And on the other side of the world, they had computer screens where they put numbers on the screens. And the CIA agents were able to leave their bodies, go to these screens, come back and tell them what the numbers were.
What?
Yeah. So it's pretty wild. And this is why I said it's not one of those things you can do a Coles Notes thing on, because there's so much to it. And the stuff in these documents would blow your mind. I literally sat there in awe, which was why I had to read them a few times to get my head around what I was reading, because this is stuff that we've only ever known in movies, TV shows, and kind of like a fantasy world. And here they are actually doing it. And they actually discuss how when you leave and you go into these, I don't even know what you would call it, I guess another dimension, you know that you're part of something bigger. You know that there is an absolute, as in like God. And you don't know how you know, but you know.
That sounds like some hallucinogens were involved too.
So
Like
you would think,
like
but
psilocybin
no,
or
there was none. So
Now,
this is all done through binaural beats or some tapes that they call the gateway process tapes. I've listened to them, and they are just binaural beats.
the skeptic in me is wondering if this has anything to do with people believing that they say astral traveled across the world, like across the world to see a number on a screen, but really they were just hypnotized and told what the number was or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, why were
Yeah.
how are these documents even available for viewing? Like, why
Well,
would
it's
they want to
obviously not going to
see
be
them?
all of them because they never give us all of them, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And
Like
I understand the skeptic in you too. Like I read it and was like, wow, but if you actually read through them, I think it will change your mind on your skepticism.
And I'm not even saying that I don't believe it, but I just like to play devil's advocate and think about,
Yeah, for sure.
like the other side, like the possibilities that maybe that is a form of mind control to try and convince people that they did something that they didn't do.
But what if it was all true, and this is why they try to keep control over us so that we never realize how powerful we actually are?
Well, that's interesting because I do believe that actually. I'm
Dun, dun,
quite
Right.
interested in energy
Ashley, I
work
thought you were
and that
wearing a
kind of stuff.
tinfoil hat. Like, what happened? Did it melt?
And what about, and they reference this in the documents, but what about those times where you think about somebody
Mhm.
and all of a sudden your phone rings and you haven't talked to them in 20 years? Because I can tell you that happened to me last week.
Mhm. Yeah, the
I was thinking about
synchronicity.
somebody that I have not talked to in, years.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden I got a text, hey, randomly out of nowhere. And they reference that in these documents. And they actually talk about how long it takes your thought of somebody to travel around the globe and go to that person.
Deepak Chopra wrote a book on this, and it's one of my sort of
Mhm.
favorite books, The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire. And it's pretty mind blowing, actually. And the more you pay attention to these types of coincidences, the more things like this will happen. I
Interesting.
do, yeah, I do find it very intriguing for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've kind of touched on it briefly, and maybe we'll revisit it once you guys have done your research and read the 39 pages. I'll be sending those to you on Twitter.
Yes, please send me the 39 pages.
Incoming in the group chat. But I brought those up anyways, just because there's so many different projects that they've done out there, and the gateway process has probably been one of the most interesting ones I've seen. And I also think, why would they make that up when there's benefit to them being able to have those abilities?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about what you can do if you can astral project. And the CIA is not the first group of people to talk about this. Go and look at astral projection and some of the experiences that people have had with it. People that are able to astral project and then tell you what a room looks like that they've never been to, or whatever. I'm not saying I believe everybody that says it's happened to, or that says that this has happened to them, but it's definitely interesting to kind of see how many people actually claim that they're able to do this. And it's got to make you wonder, why does the CIA want its hands on it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're never up to anything good, ever. None of the 3 or 4 letter agencies are, to be honest.
None of them. None.
We're for sure getting a visit tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow. Maybe when we air the episode next Sunday?
Oh shit! Someone's here right now.
Hi, Ash.
Yeah.
We love you, Ash.
They've infiltrated the island.
I know nothing. I really know nothing. It's not me.
She made me read it.
She made me read the 39 pages.
Yeah. What if I knew?
We're all about to get Epsteined.
What if I knew all of this information and more, and I just play really dumb because I don't want to get caught?
Suze, maybe Ash is the CIA.
Oh, dun dun dun.
She roped us in. She's infiltrated our podcast.
This seems plausible. It seems plausible. In the meantime, while you guys were talking about that, I was looking up Operations Blue. Anything to do with blue?
Oh, did you look up Project Bluebeam?
No, I did not come across project.
Shit.
I didn't look up projects yet. I looked up operations. What is it? Bluebeam?
Project Bluebeam. That
is
one.
Is this the one with the roofs? The blue roofs?
The what? No.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about Deuce.
What am I talking about?
Weapons?
Oh.
Well, I have to look up. I just know the names so far. So we got Operation Blue Star, Blue Light, Blue Moon, Blue Roof, Blue Sky, Project Bluebeam. A lot of fucking color blue going on here. And then I saw one article here that says the reoccurring color blue exists as it represents the blue pill in the Matrix. It implies that people remain in the blissful ignorance of illusion.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a little
good research
with this whole blue thing.
Good job, Jamie.
My poor dog.
Way to go, Jamie.
Now he needs to get used to the name Whitey.
Does anybody know anybody named Jamie, though? Is there anybody that we could rent?
I knew somebody go by the name Jamie, but it's not their actual name.
Would Theodore join us and let us call him Jamie?
Probably not. Probably not. And I don't think he likes to research. Like, he'd be like, how do you spell that word? Dichotomy? What?
Dichotomy, yes.
Well, no. He'd be like, look, guys, I'm not being your Jamie. What is this? Unless we pay him, then maybe. But no one's paying.
Maybe we can get Jamie to come over from Rogan's podcast. Probably not.
You know, it could happen.
I don't see that happen.
Could happen.
I don't.
Jamie, if you're listening,
and he is.
Let's go tweet right now. We're looking for a Jamie.
Yeah.
Who wants
to throw
to
the feelers out there? Maybe Jamie wants to jump ship from the Rogan podcast. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe he wants.
It could happen.
He wants some.
Does anybody even know what Jamie looks like? I've always been curious.
I looked him up once. He
Did
did not
you?
look like what I thought he would look like.
Oh, well, shit.
What did
Now I
you
need to.
what did you think he would look like, and what did he look like?
He was wearing a blue dress and he was lounging on a chair.
Oh, that's Jamie? Really?
Did you just look him up too? Fuck, now I gotta look him up.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I needed to. Jamie Vernon. The
Now we're losing
podcast
the
goes
audience.
quiet because we're
Yeah,
all
I
we're all
know.
Googling. Listen, you know what? Everybody else is like, hey, yeah, you know what? I don't
Yeah.
know what Jamie looks like either.
If
He,
you're
he-
driving, just keep driving. Don't pull over and look up Jamie. You can look at it later when you get home.
How much do you think Jamie makes?
Oh, I don't know.
We'll take a guess.
Okay.
If we
okay,
only
okay.
had a Jamie, then we could have someone look it up.
I don't know, like maybe 80 grand.
It says here that his salary sits between 125,000 to 150,000
off.
annually. I think
Jamie,
it's
we
safe to
can't
say
pay you that, but we're funny.
we can't afford you, Jamie.
We can't afford you, but we're a barrel of laughs.
We
Damn
promise
it.
to make you chuckle.
Well, guys,
Yes.
I think this has been,
Well.
very productive episode. We've dug into some crazy government projects. We know what Jamie Vernon looks like now. I feel like this is just an all-around win.
We know there's one big, huge conspiracy around the color blue now. Just saying.
Yeah, so we've lost Suze. Suze is gone. We'll see her next week when she's out of her rabbit hole of the color blue.
Fuck. I like
Ashley's been kidnapped by the CIA.
Yeah, Ashley. No, Ashley is the CIA.
Yeah.
She wants us to think she's been kidnapped by the CIA.
Yeah, it's all part of her.
This is
ploy.
why she dropped off at the beginning.
Oh.
Yeah.
Snap.
Exactly.
We're on to you, Ash. We're on to you.
Yeah, my bug wasn't working, so I had to reinstall.
So who's up next? Ash, I think it's you.
It is me.
And do you have anything in mind yet?
I do.
Put you on the spot here.
I would like to cover a little bit of the garbage modeling that our institutions like to use in order to push through a lot of the policies that they're making. So we have a lot of the sort of modeling that they use to push the climate agenda, and a lot of the modeling that they use to push the COVID agenda. And so I wanted to delve into that and just kind of look at how easy it is to, fudge the numbers, or maybe cut out certain parts of a model that you don't like because it's inconvenient. So that is where I thought we could go next week.
I am into this. Awesome.
Mhm. And then, of
Suze
course,
I can talk trash about Greta, right?
you
Fuck
sure
yeah.
can. How dare you?
That bitch.
Yes. Fuck that bitch.
And then, since we're talking about climate, I thought we could also delve into what the hell is winter vagina. Let's solve this problem once and for all.
Good old
Mhm.
winter vagina. Good
Yep,
times.
we're almost out of winter, so we better figure it out.
Got to figure it out. I have
Well,
yet
then we
to
move into summer vagina. So
Yeah.
Blech.
That's a sweaty mess.
Oh,
Sorry, Ashley's
sorry,
dad.
Yeah, sorry, Ash's dad. Fuck, we really let him down. What's his name? What's his name?
I don't know if I'm ready to put that out
It's
there
Ashley's
yet.
dad. Tammy. Stop
Yeah.
asking questions.
Ashley's
The
dad.
CIA
Okay, no,
agent
that's
over there
fair.
isn't going to
That's
give up
fair.
her dad's name.
That's
I'm gonna
right.
call him Harold. Sorry, Harold.
Harold.
That's what I'm going with.
All right.
You don't want to tell me? I'm making it up.
Good enough.
Sorry, Harold.
Harold it is.
Yeah, I like it. Ashley's dad, Harold.
I like it.
I don't know how we got here. Anyways, Suze, any final thoughts from you?
No. It's fucked up shit. Anybody who hears this whole story, if you're not awake, you better wake the fuck up. That's all I gotta say. This better wake you up. And can I have a chat with your mom? I feel like we all need to have a chat with your mom.
Right? I know.
It's about time Tammy's mom wakes up.
I know. I don't think she's ever gonna, but that's for another day. All right. Well, this has been great. As usual, it was awesome to go through all of this misinformation with you guys. I can't wait to see what we come up with next week. And
I am very
thank you.
happy that we found out that Ashley's a CIA agent.
Oh yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
The podcast. This might have saved the podcast.
We don't know what
You'll
we're going
still
to do.
keep having me on, though. You know it.
Well, you're our third. We kind of need you.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
yeah, you're stuck with me now.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going to say good night and thank you everyone for listening. We will talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.